iHeartRadio Broadway, driven by Mercedes-Benz. The best or nothing.
Welcome to another episode of Growin Up Broadway, the world's first podcast for theater makers who are young or young at heart.
Today's show features New York Times best-selling author Jodi Picoult.
So help me Sondheim.
So help me Sondheim.
Growing up, yeah, we're growing up, yeah, we're growing up Broadway.
Welcome to Growing Up Broadway. I'm your co-host, Timothy Allen McDonald.
And I'm your other co-host, S.J. Arniger.
So S.J., how was your weekend?
It was actually really quite lovely. I got to see my parents this weekend.
Wait, how?
So my mom's birthday was on Sunday, and they drove into Astoria. And for those that don't know where Astoria is, it's in Queens. And they came with my dogs, and my dad bought a cake for my mom's birthday. And so we socially distanced in my apartment and had dinner and cake, and it was amazing. I haven't seen them since January. So to give my mother a hug on her actual birthday was just amazing.
I am super jealous of that.
Yeah.
Not even envious, I'm just flat out jealous.
It was exactly what I needed. 8 weeks by myself in this apartment to see my parents, but especially my mom's birthday was pretty special. So, and I know and she's going to watch this video, and I know she's already crying. So,
Oh. Well, happy birthday belated.
And she says thank you. I know she will. How was your weekend?
I managed to super glue my thumb and index finger together.
How?
Well, so we decided to do some like redecorating of the apartment. And so I hung this heavy mirror that we had in storage, which promptly fell off the wall, and then kind of like the mirror itself, but the frame like broke a little. So I was like, oh, I'll just fix it. I'll just glue it back, this thing back together. But I managed to get the super glue all over my right hand and didn't know it. And so when I got everything done, I was like, oh. So I was like, oh my God, what do I do? So then I had to like Google, like, how do you do this? And then
Like Google like this?
Yeah, it's like, this is gonna make for an interesting week. Like, do you go to the ER and are you like, this? So I had fingernail polish remover because I sometimes wear toenail polish in the summers, when you're wearing your cute sandals and all that. So I had to soak my right hand for like an hour and a half, which sort of worked. And then I had to like pick it all. It's bad. Basically I have no fingerprints now. So time to commit that crime.
Everything you wanted to do and more. But haven't you also felt being in your apartment for so long? Like you and I have both been stuck in our apartments for 8 weeks now. You kind of look around your apartment and go, I want to paint that wall, or I want a new couch. Like you just get so sick of everything that it's like complete redecoration time.
Our couch, I swear, is like, really? You're sitting on me again? I can't. It is done.
Well, you can't see behind me, but I have paint swatches on my wall because now once quarantine's over, we're painting because I am sick and tired of the apartment.
Yeah. I want to knock down walls, but that's me.
You are destructive.
I am. Well, then we'll rebuild them. So how did Saturday's matinee go with Dear Evan Hansen?
It was so good. It was one of the most insightful shows. The team that put all the liners together, it was so beyond wonderful. We got to hear from Alex Lacamoire and Benjamin Justin and Jordan Fisher and Christiane Knoll. It was a wonderful, wonderful program. And I sit and I live tweet during the whole entire Saturday matinee. And so I really haven't listened to Dear Evan Hansen in quite a long time. You hear all the major songs, but listening to it start to finish, the music is just so beyond glorious, and you just forget how good that music is.
Yeah, I need to go back and give that a listen. Definitely. It's funny because I went back before our broadcast last week and listened to James and the Giant Peach, the whole cast album again, which I hadn't done probably in 3 or 4 years. And I had the same response. I'm like, man, I mean, this is like their first big musical and they are killing it. It's so good.
I was really happy with it. And this Saturday we've got the Off-Broadway revival of Little Shop of Horrors. So we're really excited. If you didn't get a chance to see it, which basically was sold out run, it's a fun show. That cast, the original cast of the revival, is genius. So we are playing this Saturday at 2.
That's awesome. I really wanted to see Gideon Glick do it because he was a JTF kid. He's an theatrics kid as well, and
I didn't know that.
he was the very first person to play Aladdin in Aladdin, Disney's Aladdin.
Mind blown. I had no idea.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, he's a good kid. Well, not anymore. He's an adult.
I got to see Jonathan Groff do it. I really wanted to see Jeremy Jordan do it, play
Yeah.
Seymour. So hopefully once Broadway's back up and running, Off-Broadway's back up and running.
Yes. Yeah.
We'll see. And so how was JT Friday last week?
It went really, really well. It was a big show, and we had Christina Alabado on, and she's the real deal, and she's also just such a kind, awesome, funny human being.
And she performed, and her song was amazing. But can I also say, I am totally gonna blank on her name, the young girl from Oh Look.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Michelle, I'm forgetting her last name. It's like Demichi, I think.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And I happen to know the whole story before she told it, and I know what show it was and all that. She's fantastic.
Yeah, she really is. And she's gonna get cast again in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. So this Friday,
Yeah, this
premiering.
Yeah, the Uni the Unicorn, which is a musical that I wrote with Rob Rakiki, that was supposed to have opened at Bay Area Children's Theater in Oakland, California. It didn't, clearly, and so we pivoted, and now we're doing it as our second Zoomsicle, in quotes. Don't sue me, Zoom. It's Zoomsicle in quotes, and I'm really excited about it.
Well, and then I know what the next show potentially is because I got to sit in on a little iTheatrics meeting yesterday reading through a script. So I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised and happy with the next one. But where can they watch Uni this Friday?
They can watch it on our Facebook page, iTheatrics Facebook, and they can also watch it on YouTube. We broadcast them live this Friday at 4 o'clock Eastern time. So please tune in. This is a fantastic cast. They're really terrific. And Marty and Dan, who is our Zoom master right here on this show also, and Gianna and Lindsay, they've really done just a terrific job of not only cracking the code of how you put a musical on using Zoom as the platform, but also like how do you tell a story? How do you make rehearsals fun? How do you really replicate that sense of being in the same room and working on the same project all at once?
Well, and I think the fact that you all have figured out how to make theater again, especially for the youth market, is so incredibly important. But using this platform, I know, has been a challenge, and you guys have figured it out, and it's taken time, but it works so well. And if you didn't get to see the Big 1-0 3 weeks ago, it's clever, and it gets your kids back up and doing musical theater and just having fun. So I implore you all to watch Uni the Unicorn this Friday at 4 o'clock.
It's going to be fun. And we also, like, licensing of the Big 1-0 online edition started yesterday, and it is off the hook. Like, we have groups who are licensing it who MTI doesn't even know. They've never been a customer before. And it's being licensed in Australia and New Zealand and Europe and Singapore, all over the world, all at the same time, which I think is like, I think it's never happened before, because usually, something goes into licensing and then like 6 months later, it'll be released in a different territory, but literally all at the same time. And people are really embracing it, which is really, really, really sweet.
Well, the cool thing that you guys are doing, you're leading how to put on in quotes, a Zoomsicle in your professional development class, correct?
Yeah, Marty and the team who've been doing this are going to do a 2-day intensive, not 2 full days, but it's over 2 days. And that's May 16 and May 17. And that is a fee-based program now, but they're going to reveal everything, how to do it in super, super, super detail. And in fact, I just found out this morning that it is, in essence, sold out. We have over 90 people already signed up. So we're exploring, we might add another session.
Congrats. That's amazing. The sheer fact that you guys took a jump and took a leap and figured all this out and you're making it work. Just kudos to you guys and the team at iTheatrics. You guys are amazing.
Oh, thanks. It's a good team. And I'm just very fortunate that everyone at Team iTheatrics has a can-do attitude and yet enough snark to keep it interesting.
We do love some snark, though. Let's be honest. So, should we get to our first guest?
One of my favorites.
So please welcome to the video podcast, New York Times bestselling author Jodi Picoult.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Speaking of snark.
Just a small level.
Yeah, just a little.
Just a little.
Jodi, how are you holding up?
I am holding up. I'm hunkered down in New Hampshire and kind of tired of being stuck in my house, but happy to have the space to move around. And it's really great to be where I live because I'm not like you are. I'm not cooped up in a tiny little apartment. So I got to go out this morning and take a beautiful walk, and I am cohabitating here with my husband, so I have someone to talk to. So there's lots of good stuff, but yeah, I'm ready to get out and move around.
You have asthma, right? And
I do.
And high risk, right? So you're on super duper lockdown. What extra precautions are you taking?
I literally have not left the house except to go for a walk. And when I walk with a neighbor. We walk 6 feet apart from each other, and we're on a big country road. So we have like both sides of the road. And, but I don't do any shopping. My husband does all that. And I literally live at this computer now. This is my home right here. And, I'm not taking any risks. We've been really, really careful not seeing people. I had the only people I see are my kids. Like you were talking about, SJ, seeing your parents, and my kids are quarantining 45 minutes away at a lake house that we own. And so we did exactly what we were supposed to do. We all quarantined for 2 full weeks to make sure everybody was healthy, and their risk level is the exact same as ours in terms of, going to the grocery store with their masks on and showering and taking off their clothes when they get home from it. And so we see them once a week, and we do like a social distance hello and dinner, and it makes my whole week to be able to see them.
It completely changes your perspective. Like I was saying, I've been alone for 8 weeks. The only people I see are my grocery store workers. I'm not seeing any of my friends that live in the neighborhood. So to see my parents and really my dogs too, for the first time since January, I haven't been secluded since January, but I just haven't been able to see them. The next morning I woke up and my complete mindset had changed because I had this moment to just be with the people I love.
Yep. It really does make a huge difference. For me, the funny thing were my dogs. We have 3 dogs. And when my kids came over, they were like, oh my God, thank God it's someone new. It was so funny to see their attitude. I think they're sick of us too.
So is there anything you're super craving right now during quarantine?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I miss traveling for work. Because I used to travel all the time. I was in New York all the time. Yeah, like you. If I was home, you were gone, or vice versa, usually. And I travel for my books. I was traveling for theatrical stuff that I've been working on. And all of that's totally gone. In fact, even my venues of travel have shut down, at this point. I couldn't even get there if I wanted to unless I drove. And I really miss that. I miss the freedom of being able to go wherever you want to go. I also miss planning. I can't believe I'm saying this either, because I'm the kind of person who has I could have told you in 2024 what I'm doing, and everything's gone on my calendar, except for the Zoom meetings that I have all day. And I just think that's really, wild. Like I never imagined I would miss that stuff. I always was the kind of person who was like, oh God, if only I could have 2 weeks home to just sit home and work. And well, I have unlimited time to sit home now, but it's very hard for me to still focus enough to write. And that's something I've been very vocal about and very honest about. You know, when you're in a creative field, I think there are two things that are happening during this pandemic. People are expecting us to be churning out tons and tons of material. And also there's this weird expectation that we should be entertaining the rest of the world. And I'm sure you're seeing that in your field too, with what you're putting on and the amazing, you know, the stuff you're doing on weekends, and giving people that content that they're craving now is so incredibly important. But I think it's also really critical that everyone who is inhaling that content recognize that the people creating it are human and are feeling just as lost and frustrated and lonely and, you know, at sea as you are. I wish people would acknowledge that a little bit more. I have friends who are writers, right? And they're like, they'll get on Twitter and they're like, you know, been up since 5 a.m., wrote 10,000 words. And I know these people, and I'll write them an email. I'm like, are you really doing that? And they're like, oh, no, absolutely not. And I said, well, then why are you posting it? You know, and there's like this expectation that we're supposed to be not just functioning, but crushing it creatively. And I think we have to give ourselves the permission to not doing that all the time, to be, I guess, hesitant with our creativity, to recognize that sometimes our brains aren't going to focus very well. I could barely read, like forget writing. I can barely get through a book, and I'm very fragmented, even though I have all this unlimited time. So I just, that's important.
And I so agree with you, because with iHeartRadio Broadway, you know, we are a 24/7 medium, but I feel like I don't want to ask people to do so much for us, because they're all in the same boat. They're all sitting at home trying to figure out when their jobs are coming back. They're not working right now, and they're being asked to do so many things from every single Broadway media outlet you could possibly imagine. So I try and be so respectful that they sometimes may just want to sit and just decompress from everything that's going on, versus getting up and doing a song and dance routine for my outlet versus, you know what I mean? It's like, you just have to take a step back and go, we're all in this together. I just want to be respectful of people's time and actual like mental capacity right now.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because, Jodi, I'm sure, and SJ, it seems like people fall into two big categories. There are people who feel the need to get out and get as much going as they can, even though that capacity is limited. And then there are people who really just are like, no, I need to hunker here, and I don't have the ability. I mean, like, people who have kids at home, forget it. I don't know how, like, I look at Lindsay and Susie from my theatrics and what their families are going through and how they're making it happen. And it's a lot, people. It's just a lot. And shout out to the parents, and stay strong, drink wine.
And, you know, and shout out to the teachers.
Yeah.
So I have 3 kids, 2 of whom were public school teachers. And I can tell you, they are working so incredibly hard right now. You know, my daughter, who's a 4th grade teacher, is literally on call all hours of the day and night, because their parents are working during the day, so they don't get to helping the kids with homework until 10 o'clock at night. She's got to be there if they need it. She has filmed herself doing videos of math problems and sent them individually to kids. They're working on limited platforms because she works at a Title I school where a lot of kids don't even have internet to use a tablet. You know, and so when you start to see the breakdown in education and the way that teachers are working around all these problems, it's so inspiring. And, you know, I think we have to give them major kudos.
Teachers are not paid enough. They are 100% not paid enough in this country. I don't care if you're at a Title I school to a private school, teachers are not paid enough at all.
I agree.
I will say, your son Kyle gives me my morning laugh every morning with his joke that he posts on his neighborhood walk. It is the thing that I laugh at every single morning and look forward to every single morning.
And I gotta say, his jokes are really good. they're funny. They're things I haven't heard before. I don't know. At all the right sources. Yeah.
So between the two of you, what is next for Between the Lines? Everything's on hold right now. Is there a next step?
It's being explored. I know there's like 2 different scenarios, but I don't know that we're allowed to actually talk about it yet. So I would just say stay tuned. But the show is definitely going to see a theater, and it's definitely going to see an audience. Ironically, when this podcast goes live, we record on Wednesday, but it usually goes live on Thursday. Well, tomorrow, May 7th, would have been the opening night of Between the Lines at the Tony Kaiser Theater at Second Stage. And ironically, to add insult to injury, while we're recording this podcast, my calendar reminder literally just popped up. It said, hey, tomorrow opening. Yeah, it's gonna be a tough day tomorrow. I think it's gonna be hard because it really does feel like 5 years, 6 years, all building to this one moment, and is now just it's lost. It's lost.
It's grief. It's 100%. It's grief. And I have gone through all the stages, from like hysterical crying to anger to like cleaning my bathroom, everything. And none of it makes it go away. None of it, takes away that loss of something that I was so looking forward to that isn't going to be happening. And it's funny that you said that, Tim, because I was talking to my husband this morning, who is also named Tim, because every man in my life is apparently named Tim. And I was talking to Tim, and he said something like, he was talking about Between the Lines. He's like, yeah, I know this is really tough. And I was like, no, tomorrow is going to be really tough. Yeah. Like today I can handle. Tomorrow, don't even cross my path. And I just know it's going to be a really crummy day. To add insult to injury, I tomorrow get to have a Zoom meeting with half of Random House about my tour for my new fall book, which is, I don't know what that's going to look like, but it sure isn't going to look the way we thought it would. And yeah, so tomorrow, yeah, right, I know.
With Between the Lines, is there anything that you all are thinking about doing to kind of celebrate your cast and the creators of the show, even while we're all in quarantine?
Yeah, we're working on a live stream where we're going to get the cast together. So we started talking about it last week as we realized this, momentous day was coming. And so stay tuned. We'll be announcing it here. I'm sure we'll have people from the cast on this podcast, but I think in like the next probably 3 weeks, we'll get everyone together with some special performances and celebration, and who knows, by then we might have a big announcement.
How are you all like keeping together as a cast, as a show? Like, are you all in constant communication? Do you guys have like Zoom meetings together where you kind of like pick each other up? How are you all like keeping together?
We talk a lot. Tim and I talk a lot because for other things that we're working on, or just because I feel like half my brain is missing if I don't talk to him very often. I also talk a lot to our composing team. I am, I think, biologically obligated to talk to my daughter, so I talk to her. So I don't know. I'm just saying, like, our creative team kind of hangs together. We all sort of chat together. And Sammy and I are also, I should pitch this, we're supposed to be doing an Instagram live on Friday night at 5:00 for Between the Lines. And we're doing it to celebrate Mother's Day as a mother and daughter. But hopefully we'll get some fans on there to ask us some questions, and maybe we'll even know some of the answers.
Is it on the Between the Lines Instagram account? Yeah,
it's going to be on mine and the Between the Lines account. Sammy's going to do a takeover of that account, so we'll merge.
Awesome.
Yeah, the odd thing is, like, in terms of our cast, we're both very close to Ariel Jacobs. In fact, we were at her wedding last, in Tulum.
Yeah, the last normal thing we did.
Yeah, and but the rest of the cast, so many of them were new that we don't know them. It's really interesting. And so we haven't had that connection. So bringing us all together would be great, because we all just scattered to the wind. Versus, I think had we been in rehearsals, and thank goodness we weren't, because that would be even more devastating.
Yeah.
I think had we been in rehearsals, we would probably be in closer contact, but we just didn't get that. We never made it to that starting point. So
yeah, it's there are family members we haven't officially met. That's the best way to put it. And I think everyone is really excited about it and really determined to make it happen, from way up at the top with our producer Daryl Roth all the way down to anyone in the cast. But I think that nobody knows. We don't even know what next week is going to look like. So it's very hard to plan ahead. I know something that Daryl is concerned about is not just when is it safe for all of our performers to get back into a room and rehearse and put up a show, but when our audience is going to feel comfortable coming to a theater to see a show, because those could be two very different timelines. And I think that's something she's trying to balance as we find a home in terms of time and place in the future for Between the Lines.
Well, and I think that's the one of the positive things that's coming out of the Broadway industry is the Broadway community, from upper management, like the league and the producing offices. They're all so concerned, yes, about their cast. Their cast, they should absolutely be taking care of their cast and creators, but the audience themselves, they are so concerned about how best to protect their audience members. And I think they're being right and careful in taking their time to figure out those steps.
Yeah, I agree. It's such a weird business, because it really does depend on throngs of people getting together. And I've been thinking about it, because everyone's businesses have been upended by this pandemic, but there are certain businesses, and they're mostly entertainment related, that really involve either crowds assembling to be an audience or crowds assembling to create the material that is being sent out into the universe. And whether that is an author's book tour or a theatrical performance, a Broadway show, or even a movie set, all of that creative content is changing, and it's changing the way we think about, putting it together. I think even for us to be able to introduce our cast to each other and to the community at large through some kind of virtual event is great. And in the way I see it is there are a lot of people who still haven't heard music from the show, because we don't have a cast album yet. The more people who can fall in love with the music and be slavishly waiting for us to take to a stage, the better we are. And I have absolutely no doubt that anyone who hears any song from that show will be singing it for the next 3 years of their lives. So, we have that lovely grace period to get to a stage.
I tell you all on a weekly basis probably that there's at least one day a week where I wake up with the Between the Lines song stuck in my head. At least one day a week.
Yeah. Shout out to Samsel Anderson for their hooks. Absolutely.
Seriously. Mm-hmm. So moving away from Between the Lines, Jodi, you have a new book that's coming out.
Yes, I do. I do. It's coming out on September 22nd in the US. It's called The Book of Two Ways. And interestingly, it is about who would you be if your life had taken a slightly different turn? If you had made one different decision, where would you be now? And it's very much a sort of sliding doors, alternate reality scenario, which is so weird, because I do feel a little bit like I'm living in an alternate universe right now. So I'm living my book. It follows a woman who is a death doula, which is kind of the opposite of a birth doula. Instead of helping someone give birth, they help someone leave this world. And she has a husband and a daughter and a client base in Boston. And she is on a plane when something goes terribly wrong. Plane's going down, and you're supposed to see your life flash between your eyes, and she does, but she doesn't see her husband or her daughter or her work as a death doula. She imagines the career she left 15 years ago as an Egyptologist when she was a PhD grad student, and the man that she was in love with at the time, who was a fellow grad student who is now the head of Yale's Egyptology program. And she survives the crash. And when you survive a crash, you may not know this, but an airline will give you a ticket anywhere you want to go, because of course you want to get back on the plane again. And so at that point, she opens her mouth to tell the agent where she wants to go. And the book splits into a Boston arc and a Cairo arc, where she decides where she wants to go. And it has a big twist, which I won't talk about, but it's one of those big books. That's the way I think of it. It really is about life and death and love, which are probably the three biggest topics you could try to cover. But I am really excited because it's just been introduced on NetGalley to librarians and booksellers who can get a copy in advance and read it. And so I'm starting to see feedback, and I love getting good feedback. I mean, who doesn't? And to know that it's not just affecting people, but it's making them think about their own lives now and about the choices that they made, and whether or not we really even make choices, or whether our choices make us.
My main question is, how did you come up with the idea for this book? Because you and I have talked about this for a while.
Yeah, so I have wanted to write this book for like a decade. And you mentioned my son, Kyle. He's my oldest kid. He is a 7th and 8th grade math teacher, but he went to Yale and he studied Egyptology. And he studied with a woman, Dr. Colleen Darnell, who is brilliant. If you really want to learn something, go to her Instagram account, which is Vintage Egyptologist. And she does all this field work dressed in vintage clothing. She's incredible. And she and her husband, John Darnell, who is the head of the Yale Egyptology program, just launched a YouTube channel, which is amazing, where they are like doing deep dives into Egyptology. But I had booked a research trip to go to Egypt, and then Arab Spring happened that spring. So I didn't go. And I kept thinking about this book because Kyle had taken a course at Yale, and he mentioned a book called The Book of Two Ways. That's the name of my novel, but it's also the name of an ancient funerary text in Egypt. You've probably heard of the Book of the Dead, right? So the Book of Two Ways is an earlier incarnation of a funerary text. It happened in the Middle Kingdom, and not the New Kingdom, which is the Book of the Dead. So it's a little earlier, and it only happened in one part of Egypt, the Middle Kingdom of Egypt. And it was found on the certain coffins in tombs in Middle Egypt. And it basically was a path that was two different lines, and it was the first known map of the afterworld, with the premise being that the deceased could stand up and walk either a water route or a land route and wind up kind of in their equivalent of heaven with the gods. And it didn't matter which path you took, you would wind up at the same place, which of course is a great metaphorical hint for my novel. And so, I wanted so badly to write a novel with that title. And the more I found out about the book, the cooler it was, but I had to go to Egypt. So at Kyle's wedding, I reconnected with his thesis advisor, Colleen. And I said, I really want to go to Egypt. She said, great, I'll take you. And we literally went that spring. We went the next year. We did this 2-week trip. And my husband came. Kyle at the last minute was able to come with us, which was amazing. And we got to see a side of Egypt that most people don't see, because we weren't there as tourists. We were there basically as academics. And, she took us into every tomb, and she could tell us everything that we needed to know. I actually went to a part of Egypt that Americans are not allowed to visit. Middle Egypt is pretty much off limit for tourists because there was a German bus bomb a while ago. And we went there, and we were staying at this divey little hotel, because it's not a big tourist industry, that had a Netflix category called Violent American Films, which I thought was hysterical. And we went out like at night to just get some falafel at a restaurant, and we were trailed by the police with machine guns. And I couldn't figure out if they were trying to protect me or if they thought I was a danger, but I did feel very much like Beyonce, because I had an entire entourage behind me. And it was crazy, but also so special, to get into places that are not tourist attractions, but are really only being seen by Egyptologists who are doing this work every single day. So it was a really, really magical trip. And I came out of there with just my head buzzing with knowledge. And I've worked so closely with Colleen in the writing of this book to make sure that the accuracy is, right on point. I doubt many of you will know that the Middle Egyptian translations are accurate, but there is a very small group of people who will.
So again, the book is being released in September?
Yep. It's called The Book of Two A's. It comes out on September 22nd. And you can pre-order it anywhere.
Also, I think there is a little rumor that you two are working on another collaboration. Is there some sort of new Corona-themed musical you two are working on?
Well, who would have whispered that in your
We just
I do have a script right here, so,
Yeah.
Yes, we are. So Jodi had the idea of writing basically 4 short stories that would be musicalized, that are based on what it's like to be in lockdown in this time from the point of view of right now, instead of like, writing something a year from now and being like, oh, and that's why I feel this way about that. It's very much in the moment. And the 4 stories involve, the one that we wrote first is this party girl, and it's, March 13th, basically, the day that everything ended in New York City. On a dare, she goes and flirts with this dweeby guy, and they end up going home together, and she wakes up the next morning to find that the world has changed, that she's now in quarantine with this guy. And the fun twist is she can't remember his name. So, and then we have another story that's about a gay couple in their late 20s, early 30s. And it opens with one of the characters writing a Dear John letter to his boyfriend. And then the lockdown happens, they rekindle their love. And then the boyfriend finds the letter, and so that's that story. So they're mixed, there's a great one, I don't know, they're all my favorite. I don't know, there's a one that's about a power couple with kids. And so it's the point of view of them, each one of them is like, I'm going to the office. I don't care about the lockdown. I'm going to the office. I need to work. And they're both trying to do that. And then how they, sort of resolve that. There's a great twist on that one. And then there's another one, the last one which is about an older couple, and it's really poignant.
Yeah.
So it's fun. We have 4 different songwriting teams working on it.
Which is also really fun.
Yeah. So
it's like the mega collaboration or something, but it's fun because they all come with different ideas and different styles and different ways of working. So from a creative standpoint, it's really cool to listen to all of those creators and kind of hear what they need from us and how they want to work and how they can best serve the story. That's been really cool.
So can you divulge who the songwriting teams are?
Yeah, I think we can. We're going to. So there, take that world, Corona boom. Robert Kiki is going to write one of them. Marcy Heisler and Zena Goldrich are going to write one of them. In fact, we're meeting with them this afternoon. What time is that meeting, Jodi?
2:30, don't forget. 2:30.
2:30, okay, good. Dan Mertzlov and his writing partner, Kate, our Zoom master here, is writing one of them. And then Doug Besterman and a soon-to-be-announced collaborator, that's it, will be also writing it. So it's a fun mix. Everyone from like Dan and Kate, who this is sort of probably their biggest project, they're young writers. And it's really cute. So we've met with all of them except for Marcy and Zena. We've talked. And so like meeting with like Robert Kiki, he's like, yeah, I got ideas, boom, boom, boom. That's it. Like he's like seasoned. I'm not saying he's like got a martini and smoking, but like, it's like Yeah. And then we met with Dan and Kate, and they were like, had a song written. I mean, they were
definitely the students in the front row. You know, it was so cute, and it was a great song, and they're so excited. Like, they just got me feeding off their excitement.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our goal is to get this up and then figure out what we want to do with it. Our idea is to maybe have like a regional theater debut it online.
Mm-hmm.
If we're still in that world, which I unfortunately think we will be, or maybe have like 4 different regional theaters partner and each one take a segment and then produce it all together, maybe raise some money for charity, sort of taking the approach of write it and then we'll figure out what to do with it, you know, based on where we are then.
You guys should also look at doing it as podcast musicals.
Yeah, that's the other thing that we've talked about too. And I think that one thing that Tim has said, which I think is important, is that we're going to need to sort of document what this felt like.
Yeah.
Because it's always kind of hard to do it in hindsight. And to be able to, you know, literally take a peek into the lives of 4 very different couples and how they're weathering not just a virus, but relationships that are impacted by it. I think that's really fun. That's really fun to be able to do.
Well, if you need a test subject for someone who lives by themselves and talks to lamps and it's like going full Grey Gardens, I mean, I'm right here, so I'm totally available.
Okay, little Edie, we got it.
Don't be surprised if you get a photo of me as full-on little Edie in a week. So, just saying.
I'm holding you to that.
I was just gonna say that.
Can of cat food and little Edie, totally. So you guys also have the Book Thief, which was supposed to start relatively.
Over your shoulder. Can you see? It's right. Do you see over Tim's shoulder? It's sitting on his shoulder. The Book
Oh,
Thief.
I was like, my shoulder. What?
Yeah.
What's the update on the Book Thief?
Well, we've had a really nice chat with Lottie Wakeham, who is our director and the artistic director at the Octagon Theater in Bolton. And we had been scheduled to basically go into rehearsals in February and debut in March in the UK. And that was very much contingent on us doing a workshop this summer in New York, which theoretically and most likely is just not going to happen. And so, you know, what's really nice is that Lottie completely gets it. The Octagon Theater is 100% behind the project, but basically said to us, we'll do what you want to do. You know, if you want to push it a little bit so that we have the time to have a workshop and to do the casting that we need to do, that's completely fine with us. And we sort of made an agreement to talk in a couple of weeks when she knows more about what the UK is going to be doing, what their protocols are, because we have to follow, you know, that country's regimen. But that was very reassuring, I think, for me, you know, because the last thing I want to do is take a project that I think is very, very special and shoehorn it, you know, so that it feels rushed. Between the Lines is in a very different space creatively than where the Book Thief is. Between the Lines is a couple of years ahead of it. And we've gone through workshops. We've done our first out of town. We have a very good sense of what that show looks like. And to be completely honest, like, it could open on any stage the way I see it. Like, it could open off-Broadway. It could open on Broadway. I feel that confident about Between the Lines. It is a done deal. We're still learning how to tell the story of the Book Thief, and we've never actually seen it 3-dimensionally. So we need to be able to rough that into shape before we can even get it onto a stage. And so it's gonna take a little extra time, and I don't think we have anything to lose by pushing it back by a few months or even a year. And knowing that the Octagon's behind that, I think, is really important.
And we're also discussing, because we approached the Book Thief through a lens of the rise of fascism and blaming immigrants. And, you know, it was a filter that's what drew us to the piece, because, you know, the premise is, if there was ever a time in the history of the planet to eliminate the human race, we were thinking that, this would be another one of those times. We didn't realize that the planet would actually actively work towards that goal, and introduce, and then unleash a plague of murder bees on top of it. So
it's level 5 of Jumanji right now.
We're now going to write a musical about a very fast vaccine.
Yes.
Apparently we're going to drive what actually happens.
So we're looking at it now from a filter of what is the message, because the world's a different place. So we have to look at that, and what's the filter and what's the message that we want to leave audiences with. And it's the same message that we were writing, which is a message of the power of words, and that words are the ultimate weapon, and they can be used for good or they can be used for evil. And so we're going to figure that out, and we have plenty of time to do it.
And ultimately, the nice thing about The Book Thief is that it's a debilitating, sad story that's a message of hope and resilience. And if anything, I think that is going to resonate even more right now. We aren't in World War II. We are in a different kind of war zone.
Right.
And people are going to come out of this losing people who are important to them. And that's really kind of the message behind The Book Thief. What about that, and what about our strength in the face of that makes humanity worthwhile?
Well, and I guess my biggest question is, you guys are so used to collaborating from a distance because you both live in completely different places. You guys come together and work together when you're in New York, or you guys travel together. Has it been harder collaborating in quarantine, or do you find that it's been status quo for you both?
On some levels I find it easier because Jodi and I have worked remotely. We've been sort of cracking this code and trying different things for years now. I do find though that my patience when it comes to collaborating isn't as good as it used to be. I feel like, I don't know, we were trying to work on a script on Monday for Between the Lines, and it just unraveled into a giant, massive headache where we realized that we didn't have the right information to make any decisions, because that's what Corona is. And yet we kept trying, and it was like throwing yourself at a wall over and over again, expecting not to get bruised.
3 hours of writing, and then we ended with, none of this works.
Literally, none of it worked. And that was my Monday.
Yeah, that was, I went to bed at 8:00 on Monday.
Same.
I was like, I've had it. I can't anymore.
With a headache and feeling like I'm done. Yeah. But then Tuesday, we were fine. We got up and we're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. And okay.
It was the Monday to end all Mondays, for sure. But the other thing that's funny, yesterday, we were working yesterday, I think, and you couldn't figure out why my script wasn't updating on your script. And it was because we are using so many different platforms now that, we weren't using a final draft platform that we usually use to collaborate. And so it was funny because I think we're all split up between FaceTime and Skype and Zoom and all these other meetings, and you never really know. I know I do different things with different people based on my work life, and it's just funny to have to keep all that straight too. But I don't think the other thing I've noticed about you is your life is so fragmented right now. Perhaps you don't realize this, let me tell you, but you really, he's very busy doing, a meeting for this, and then I'll have an hour free, and then I've got a meeting here. And usually when I work with Tim, he's got his days in the office when he's off limits, and then he has writing days when he's at home. And I think all of us are kind of feeling that. I don't know about you, I have meetings all weekends. There's no weekend anymore. It's just one big day. And there's no demarcation of time off. And so it's harder in a way to grab those moments to work.
Well, and I'm finding with working in my apartment, I mean, doing everything in my apartment, I am working longer days. So I start at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm working until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night because I don't have to move anywhere. So my days just become these exaggerated work days. And it's gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, Sunday is my one day where I'm not touching anything just because I need to shut my brain off and watch terrible, terrible television like The Bachelor and Bachelorette. I mean, it's like, I just need dumb for just at least 12 hours.
Okay, very important follow-up question. Are you watching Listen to Your Heart?
I am not. I can't do it.
Not good. It is not good. Yeah.
So for those that don't know, Jodi and I text on Monday nights during The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. So that is our thing.
Yeah, it's not good. I think the problem with it is that everyone's on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette to kind of make a name for themselves on Instagram.
Yeah.
But they're like pairs that are trying to sing together, and of course they're trying to make a name for themselves. So you don't even have you can't even deny that. You can't hide it from yourself. It's not very good. Also, none of them can actually sing well. So there's also that.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't pull myself into it. So
best thing I learned, I cannot believe I'm saying this in a podcast, but my brand new son-in-law, my daughter's husband, Frankie, he is not watching the show, but he found out that he has an ex who is on it, and she's crazy. And he told us this amazing story about how crazy she was and how they went out on this date to a movie, and basically he texted a friend in the middle saying, yeah, this isn't going so well. And she took his phone and she was like, can I borrow your phone? And he thought she wanted to make a phone call or whatever. And he gave her the phone and she started reading all the texts and like saying, what? You don't think this is going well? And needless to say, that was their one and only date.
Well, I will also say Jodi tried to get me to watch Love is Blind, and I watched the first episode and I was like, I can't do this.
That is a mistake, SJ. I'm telling you.
The payoff isn't worth it, though. I don't think the payoff is not worth it.
I could not. I was like, this one episode feels like 14 hours long to me.
But I mean, think of how prescient that series was, where dating happened in isolated pods and you never really get face to face. Right?
I watched that while I had the fever going on and all that. And so I would wake up with chills and then I would like turn TV and I would watch like 20 minutes of it. And then like, so for me, that whole Love is Blind thing is like part of my fever dream where I don't know if I was in isolation with them. It's all a total blur.
Yeah.
Also, to add insult to injury, my computer keeps giving me calendar updates that tomorrow night is opening on Second Stage. It will not stop.
You're talking to Jodi.
I told you should take those off your calendar because it just is going to make you sad.
I like seeing my alternative universe life.
I had to take them all off because I was just like, every time one came up, I would burst into tears. So I just couldn't anymore. Although I did realize like I was supposed to keep going back and forth all the whole run to do talkbacks. And so I had like, I literally must have had 15 or 20 hotel reservations for the whole summer. And I was like canceling them. And I got an update from one, I guess I had forgotten to shut down one particular stay. And they were like, we're looking forward to welcoming you in Times Square. I'm like, no, you're not. I had to immediately cancel that, but yeah.
All right, we should jump into our quiz. Yeah. This is the final thing.
I don't know anything about this.
Anything that comes into your mind, just first thing, okay? Yeah, go ahead.
We're starting?
Yeah, let's do it.
On your mark, get set, go.
What's your favorite musical of all time?
Ragtime.
Funniest or most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to you live on stage?
Oh, that would probably be when I was at JTF and was crossing my legs, and apparently my skirt was too short and the camera angle was from below.
That's where you got the name Jodi Picoult. If you could play any role, regardless of gender, which would you choose?
Gosh.
Oh, I know what you're going to choose.
Well, probably Ariel in The Little Mermaid, right?
That's what I thought.
What did you think I was going to say?
Alexander Hamilton.
Why would I want to do that? I would never be able to memorize all those lyrics.
No, if you could do, okay, never mind.
I know all the lyrics for Ariel, so.
And you have the costume.
I do have the costume, yeah.
Who do you want to be when you grow up?
Margaret Atwood.
If you could only eat one thing for the rest of eternity, what would it be?
Fresh bread. Luckily, I'm making a lot of it these days.
Same.
Who is your literary crush?
Alice Hoffman.
Which would you rather write, books or musicals?
Tim, you can't ask me that.
I think I just did.
Well, okay, what I would rather write are musicals that actually get to final productions. Can I say that? It's more fun, honestly, to write a musical because it's always more fun to collaborate.
Yeah.
And because using a different medium, using music to get across some of your feelings is really cool. But yeah, I would like to cross a finish line.
Well, congratulations. You have won an IOU for a brand new Mercedes Matchbox car.
Ooh, how exciting.
You know I'm now going to have to figure this out once I'm out of quarantine, how to get these Matchbox cars.
I can't wait. I'm excited. But also, did you see the news thing about the 5-year-old who went driving and wanted to go buy a Lamborghini?
Did you not see this? He got pissed because he wanted his mom to buy him a Lamborghini and she said no. So the 5-year-old jumped in the car and got pulled over by the police for driving as a 5-year-old.
But also he could reach the pedals and he pulled over. He knew to pull over. He pulled over on the left, but he still pulled over.
I think there's a musical in this somewhere.
I think this kid's a genius.
Or a sociopath.
Or both, yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So that's it goes off the rails from here.
Sorry.
Thank you, Jodi, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for making me laugh. I needed that today.
I think we all needed this today.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, another brilliant podcast, video cast, whatever we call it.
That's today's episode of Growin' Off-Broadway. I'm your co-host, S.J. Arniger.
And I'm your other co-host, Timothy Allen McDonald.
We'll see you next time.
Now go out there and make the world a better place, one musical at a time.
May the Schwartz be with you.
And also with you.
Growing up, growing up, growing up, Broadway, growing up, Broadway.
iHeartRadio Broadway, driven by Mercedes-Benz. The best or nothing.